with all the big calls on all the big races. It's time for another weekend. What a shout. Welcome back. Dave Orton with you, bucket and spade no more. I am here to talk you through some marvellous weekend action with my favourite panellist, Paul Kealy, back in the studio. I say wearing a less controversial shirt. I did see Bruce's wonderful stint last week, and even your wife was heckling you, man. But you've come in with another loud shirt.
It's not that loud, is it? It's just a check shirt.
I wouldn't miss you walking down the street, Kills, I can tell you that much. Just quickly.
I was out cutting trees this morning.
Fantastic. Imagine that. How's the week been? York, of course.
The first day I had some near misses in the paper. I backed a couple of winners that were, on the short list. Yesterday, sunk without trace. I mean, everything I fancied ran an abysmal race. Just one of those. So,
do you find it one of those courses, York?
I think of all the festivals, York is hard. I mean, it's even harder than Royal Ascot. It's difficult. You get horses that do act on the track. You get your course specialists, and you get your ones that don't. Then you don't know where they're going to go on. Don't know where they're going to race. And then you say to yourself, why did you go there? And then the following race, they all go there, and the winner comes from there. You know what I mean? It looks like you want to be far side, really, doesn't it? But I mean, there was, a winner came down the centre at the end of the day yesterday. So who knows? And
in keeping in a current theme with this summer, and perhaps in this year in particular,
yes.
Are we expecting the weather to change?
It's so typical, isn't it? We're going to, obviously we're going to do the Ebor preview, but I was looking at the Ebor and I thought, crikey, I said, half of these horses, if there wasn't such a massive pot, they'd be a non-runner due to unsuitable ground. But hang on a minute, in comes the weather front, 10 to 20 mil forecast. It looks like they're going to get some early hours of the morning, and then it's going to rain. It's going to rain on and off throughout the day, pretty much as happened on Ebor Day last year, if you remember.
I do.
By the time Futurity Prince won the Ebor, it was officially soft ground. Now it started the day that year a little bit softer than it is this time. So how much gets in? But it's guesswork again, isn't it?
Yeah, big cards all over the place. Of course, we'll be joining Sandown, of course, going to the Curragh, 2 top 2-year-old races as well. Now, Keel's back in the studio, Dave Orton back in the studio, but one steady Eddie. We know where he always is. From our sponsors, Bet365. Welcome back, Pat Cooney.
Yes, good morning. And I've just got a plain outfit. I can't compete with Keels in the fashion stakes, so I'll leave him and Gokwan to sort their wardrobe out.
Don't. There you go. Absolutely. All he needs
to compete with me in the fashion stakes, mate. You're about 100 years old.
We just need to get Keels having a bit more hair, isn't it? And he's rivaling Gok all of a sudden. Where's this show going? Well, great to have you with us as well. What a treat we've got coming up for you. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. That's what it's all about. Anything Twitter, hashtag what a shout. Get your questions in. Let's have all your tips for the weekend. We'll see where the naps are going later on. Let's see what we've got coming up for you on this weekend's show then. The guest, we go to Newmarket, but not where you might think. We've got an absolute treat for you, and a world icon in the shape of Mikey Holding comes onto the show to talk everything racing, a little bit of cricket as well, and what holds for the year ahead. Then we've got, of course, hot topics. These new hot topics, absolutely loving these. The panel will be picking some out and giving you a quick fire education on what they think has happened at York this week. All the race previews, and let me tell you, we've got plenty of them for you this week. We've been listening to feedback. Of course, the weekend naps at the end of the show. So, as promised, we're going to go to Newmarket. We're not going to Stoute's Yard. We're going to Freemason Lodge, pretty much. And I said to you before we came in, he loves his racing, this guy. He's a world icon. He is basically the Caribbean Keels. He loves a punt. I met him in a casino once down the line. Yeah. It's basically you. Have you ever played cricket?
I have not only have I played cricket, I have played cricket in Jamaica.
No way.
Went on a tour years ago with Bruce Jackson. Remember, Bruce? Yeah. Jonathan Kay from the ground desk and about 16 others, a team. And yeah, I played out there. I got one match. You had to play once to go on the tour, and I wasn't part of the actual cricket team.
That was the requisite.
One match. I lasted 2 balls. But I did take 2 wickets. Now
I could see you bowling a few googlies.
No, well, this is it. You see, I think the only reason I took the 2 wickets is they couldn't actually believe someone could take such a long run up and bowl so slowly, and they were trying to hit
bamboozled them with a slow ball.
They were trying to hit me all over the park, and a couple of boundary catches. It was good fun. I also went to Caymanas Park Racecourse in Kingston.
Never knew I was going to get that from Keels. And one guy who spent his entire youth at Caymanas Park. Let's see what Mikey said. Well, delighted to say that this week's segment, a guest segment here on What a Shout, we go into legend territory. And we can go down to Newmarket and meet the greatest bowler, certainly one of the greatest fast bowlers of all time, Michael Holding. Mikey, are you there?
Hi, Dave. Yes, I am. And maybe I was one of the greatest fast bowlers on that West Indies team, but not of all time.
Oh, I don't know about that, Mikey. The modesty that we get told about you already coming out. Mikey, thank you for coming on to What a Shout. It's great to have you here. The Racing Post is absolutely buzzing that we managed to get you this week. Big week, of course, right in the middle of the flat season. Mikey, I was born in 1976, and there's two things that people always tell me about the year I was born. The Great Drought and the year that the greatest ever Test cricket team came over and whooped the English team. It was the West Indies, of course. Your first ever visit to England that year, Mikey.
Yeah, 1976 was my first time here. I was 22 years old, but I don't think the 76 West Indies team was as good as later on, Dave. I think by the time 1980, 81, 82 came around, that's when we really got on top of our game. 76, we were just starting off.
For our viewers out there, Mikey, if you want to, I'm assuming that everyone knows who Michael Holding is out there, of course, cricket fans or not, because now one of the great broadcasters of our time as well in sport, certainly for Sky. We'll get into that, of course, with Mikey. But you can go onto YouTube, Google it, of course, the Michael Holding story, which is a jewel in the sand. Your great friend Michael Atherton, of course, talks us through that. And what struck me about the very beginning of that programme, Michael, is you're at a racetrack in Jamaica.
Dave, I've been involved with horses for so long. I've always loved horses. I got involved with horses as a kid because my older brother's godmother owned horses. And of course, once Athers decided that he had to do a story about me, or Sky decided that, and then Athers narrated it and did the interviews, we had to go to Caymanas Park in Jamaica. Just had to. I went to my school, Kingston College, and we had to go to Caymanas Park as well, just part of me.
So not only is it the cricketing, of course, the Whispering Death, the nickname is something ironic, of course, because as our viewers and our younger viewers who are now saying, who's this Michael Holding, what am I doing? You're listening to Michael's voice, one of the great broadcasting baritones as well. So Michael, I heard in that interview, Athers mentions that the Whispering Death, your bowling action, of course, which is named after some great characters in that, which we'll get to a little bit later on in this interview. Of course, it's akin to racehorses as well, isn't it? Of course, and it's great flat racing that you're really into. Am I right in thinking, not just because of the pandemic, Michael, but because of your broadcasting contract with Sky as well, you come over for the British cricketing season, but you also stay in Newmarket at one of your great friends' places, right?
Yeah, I've been staying in Newmarket now since I got the Sky contract way back in 1998. You know, Michael Stoute is a very good friend. I met him way back in 1985. And I pretty much have the run of the stable. So I enjoy being in Newmarket. I go over there every morning. I was there this morning before we started this podcast. And, you know, whenever I get the opportunity to go racing every now and again, I do. But I certainly enjoy being on the heath in the mornings. And living here in Newmarket makes it so much easier. So many people have to travel to get to Newmarket to go out on the heath. I just get up and walk over.
You get the sense, Michael, that since you've retired, your life has almost really taken off for what you really wanted to do, of course. Because racing, of course, and betting has been a big part of your life. We have mutual friends, Michael, and I can tell you that your tips are rather legendary that come out of Sir Michael Stoute's Freemason Lodge Yard. I heard Shane Warne reference not that long ago saying, is there any chance of him giving us anything good? But I can tell you that when Mikey gets a text and it filters down the WhatsApp groups, the price is usually gone and it usually comes good. Just tell us a little bit more about your friendship with Stoute then over the years.
Well, that started way back in 1985. How it started actually, Dave, is that I used to own horses in Jamaica. And the trainer that trained my horses, his daughter got married to a Bajan. A Bajan is what we call people from Barbados. And that Bajan was good friends with Michael Stoute. I shouldn't say is a good friend of Michael Stoute. In 1985, when I was playing at Derbyshire, he came up here to England, was staying in Newmarket, and called me to ask me if I wanted to come down and meet Michael Stoute, because he knew I was into racing. He knew I had horses in Jamaica and that sort of thing, so I would be very interested. So I came down. I met Michael Stoute, and that's where the friendship started, and it has blossomed ever since. This is going now at 36, 37 years of friendship. And as time went on in the relationship and the friendship, I got more and more comfortable being at the yard. You know, initially, I used to go to the yard in the mornings, and after first lot I disappear because I didn't want to be around and interfering too much and, you know, taking up people's space. But after a while, I went back first lot, second lot. I then started to go for breakfast over at his house. Initially, he would invite me for breakfast and say, well, would you like to come over? And then after a while, you know, it's 30 odd years, as I said, Dave, it is expected and I just go. So that's where the relationship started. That's how it has built over the years. And I am really, really glad that he has been able to give me the freedom of going to the yard in the mornings. You know, I feel as if I'm a part of the yard.
I think you certainly are a part of the yard. A calming influence, your friend Ryan Moore called you as well. A little bit more about Ryan a little bit later on. So I guess you've seen some great horses over the time, Michael. Of course, recently, Stoute's had something of a renaissance, you might say. Of course, he's 75-year-old himself now, and also we should say a big cricketing fan. So I think this friendship was very mutual. Let's put it that way. But you've seen some of the great horses over the years. Of course, recently Crystal Ocean taking out the Prince of Wales Stakes with Ulysses, with during York Week, of course, gave him a 6th Debutante International. Which horses stick out from the memory, Michael? Putting you on the spot there.
Well, Russian Rhythm as a filly, I think she stuck out tremendously. You know, I think she was a fantastic filly. As far as the colts are concerned, in more recent times, he has had so many. When you think of Pilsudski and King's Best, there are so many colts that he has had. But King's Best, in my opinion, Dave, if King's Best had sound legs, but that's part of horse racing. People will say, oh, if he didn't have sound legs, he couldn't have been a great horse. But he still did enough with having a slight little niggle there. And he broke down in Ireland, as you know. I think if King's Best was 100% sounds like some other horses, he would really show people how good a horse he was. But he did enough anyway. I think he was a great horse.
So this is a great time of year for you, of course, Michael, because Sky have involved you in the Racing League. You captained at, of course, Windsor on Thursday night. We're always trying new initiatives at the moment, which is a good thing. More money coming in, of course, to the game. Let's talk about your punting for a little bit, Michael. After all, what a shout is for the punters out there and people that like to have a go in horse racing. What sort of races do you like to look at? Is it handicaps, Michael, or perhaps you see something working in the mornings at Stoute's in the Shively Park colours and go and get involved then?
Well, handicaps are difficult. I prefer high quality racing. You know, group races, I think it's easier to find a winner in group races, but more times than not, the prices aren't very encouraging. But when you think about Royal Ascot is always the hardest racing, but it's the best racing and the best horses. And I think following the form at Royal Ascot and trying to back horses off the form at Royal Ascot is pretty not easy, but I think it's a lot easier than just backing in handicaps on any old day. Good racing like this week at York, I can find winners at York because, again, fantastic horses, good horses competing together, and the form usually stands up unless, of course, you get bad weather and then the going changes and that sort of a thing. But considering the fact that the days throughout this week are going to be good weather, and the form should stand up, I think York is always a good meeting to have a bet.
We've also seen some jockey eras as well. We've lost the likes of the great Mick Cannan, Kieran Fallon gone by the wayside. Frankie's still riding, of course, but some of the younger generation coming through, I personally, Michael, think we might not be far off another golden era of top jockeys. James Doyle, William Buick, Tom Marquand, David Probert even catching up. Ryan Moore, of course, and the current champion, Oisin Murphy, Sylvester de Souza, the list goes on. What are your current thoughts at the moment? Do you have certain favourites out there?
Yes, there are certain jockeys that I admire, but I wouldn't necessarily be backing a horse because of a jockey. Everything has to come together. The jockey has to be riding the right horse under the right circumstances. The first thing I look at is the horse and the circumstances under which the horse is running, and then, of course, the form of the horse. And secondly, the trainer. Who's training this horse? What sort of form is this trainer in? And then I would hope that there's a good jockey on board. But the jockey can't do much without the horse, Dave, and that is the problem. But you certainly need a good jockey on board when you think about having a bet. But there are some fantastic jockeys around. You named quite a few there. I think Ben Curtis is a good jockey as well. You didn't mention his name. And I think Neil Callan coming back from Hong Kong is again adding to the list. But there are some fantastic jockeys around. You can almost close your eyes these days and figure Yes, I can back this out because they are a good jockey on board. But also, Dave, don't forget the lady jockeys. There are a great bunch of lady jockeys riding these days. Sophie Osborne, Nicola Curry, Haley Turner, who people will look now as an old stager, Holly Doyle. There are so many of them.
Okay, Mikey, we mentioned York, of course. Have you had a little look at the Ebor yet? A seriously valuable handicap. Now, Stoute doesn't have one in it this year, but maybe you might be able to steer us some way. Will you be having a bet in it?
No, I don't think so. I don't usually look at those big handicaps so far out either day because, first of all, I saw Michael Stoute run a group horse in the Ebor and he was drawn that badly. He had absolutely no chance. If you remember Medician,
yeah.
It's all about the draw that you get. So those races are not betting races for me as far as anti-post is concerned. On the day, if I see a horse that is drawn well and I think this horse is good form and all that, I might have a bet, but it's not a big betting medium for me. I know the bookies like those big handicaps, 20 other horses in a race, only one can win. Hard to get a dead heat. So the favors are certainly with them. So I prefer to wait on the day and think if something sticks out like a sore thumb, maybe, but otherwise I'm quite happy to watch.
Okay, let's see if I can tease this out of you then, Mikey. Is there a horse at Stouty's at the moment that you think we should be looking forward to? Of course, Highest Ground. He's a little bit thin at the moment, Stouty, of course, after Crystal Ocean's gone. A couple of others have retired, maybe through injury or gone off to stud or whatever. This is what you might call a rebuilding season for Michael, I would imagine. Of course, it's been a very difficult year for Sir Michael, of course, after the sad loss of his partner Coral Pritchard Gordon, of course. Is there a horse out there that you think we ought to be looking to? What's gone on with Highest Ground, for example?
No, Highest Ground has been disappointing. I am shocked that Highest Ground hasn't been able to produce more than he has produced this year. Because when I saw him last year, I thought to myself, this is going to be a fantastic horse for us next year. He's going to be winning group races left, right, and centre. He obviously hasn't produced anything near that, much less to be even placing in the group races that he should be running in. So that is just a mystery. No, but that's horse racing. Sometimes you look at a horse in the morning and it shows you exactly what you're looking for, and on the race day, it just doesn't happen. Who knows why? There are others in the yard that I can tell you have been disappointing no end as well. I can give you another name, Evaluation. We thought he would have been winning races left, right, and centre. I don't think he has won a race this year yet. I don't think he has even run close to what we were expecting him to run. But one horse that you didn't mention that is gone, that sadly, our only Group 1 winner this year was Dream of Dreams. And then he fractured in the morning. He is no longer able to race. So that is another big blow to the yard. But there are a few youngsters around. There are some 3-year-olds that you think could be producing good stuff as 4-year-olds. And then, of course, there are 2-year-olds that we are hopeful for. Next year, you will see if they really blossom. He doesn't really rush his 2-year-olds. He had his first 2-year-old winner recently at a shockingly big price of 25-1 Aeonian, which is a Ulysses colt. And Ulysses, we have quite a few Ulysses colts and fillies. And Ulysses took a bit of time to mature. So I expect that these 2-year-olds will take a bit of time to mature as well. So I can't really nominate one, but there are a few fillies around. I think the fillies will come on quicker. You may see them coming onto the racetrack not too long from now, and there are some nice ones.
It does seem remarkable that Stouty sends out a 25-year-old, 2-year-old winner. So, okay, you can't keep a good man down. We know this. One of the greatest trainers of all time. Certainly one of the greatest cricketers of all time. One of the greatest broadcasters of our era as well. The Whispering Death. Mikey, we wish you best for the future. I know the pandemic has been terrible around the world, but it's meant that we've got to keep you here in Britain. So thanks so much for joining us here on What a Shout.
My pleasure, Dave, and thanks for having me.
There you go. What an absolute treat for you then. The Messiah, as cricketing fans call him, Mikey Holding, the voice. He's got one of those brilliant baritone voices, Kills. Yeah, so, and you can tell how mad keen he is. And what a great insight into his punting mind as well. Little treat for you as well. That won't be the last you're hearing of Michael Holding at Racing Post Towers, I can tell you that much. Okay, hot topics. Shall we get straight into it? Let's go for it. Okay, there's the list in front of us. It would be remiss of us, Kills, not to lead you into York so far. Because opening day on Wednesday, Great week ahead. One of the richest races of the entire year. A sterling performance. Rolls-Royce of a performance from Mishriff. But someone wasn't impressed.
It's not a case of not being impressed. I mean, you love to play the wind-up on Twitter because it gets people's backs up straight away, doesn't it? And they can't help it. All I said was don't get carried away. He hasn't beaten much, roughly. I mean, in a few more words than that, I know you only get 140 characters or whatever it is. We might get more these days. But yeah, I just said, look, he hasn't beaten much.
Was that your mischievous side coming out as well?
Well, it was. Like, let's not get carried away. Yes, he's won a race by a mile. It was a bit mischievous, but there's a bit of truth in it as well. Like, you know what I mean? And Maharthas didn't stay. Max Swiney's a mud lover. Love either isn't as good as she was last year, or she wasn't actually that good last year because she only raced against fillies.
She looked like she wanted a tad further again.
Alan Kerr is a stayer who wants soft ground, and he was the first off the bridle and has ended up staying on and staying on in the second. I said on another podcast, I thought Mishriff was a certainty and it'd be nearer even money. I was more surprised by the price.
Yeah, big price.
Than the way he won it. Now, don't get me wrong, he's a top-class horse, but he hasn't beaten St Mark's Basilica, he hasn't beaten Adeo, he hasn't beaten Snowfall. Yeah. He's beaten Alan Kerr, who went into the race with a rating of 110. Mishriff was rated 124. He was perfectly entitled to do what he did to that horse. Don't get me wrong, it still makes him a top-class horse.
He ultimately ran close to form, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, but my guess on there was a £2 to £3 PB. And on RPRs, they've given him a £3 PB.
128 seems fairly high.
Not very hard. This handicap is not. Is it?
Don't tell anyone, Keels. Yeah.
But that was my guess, and I think you have to give him serious credit. But then when you got people like Matt Chapman on ITV going, "This is the best horse in the world," and all that, you can't make that. You can't make bold statements.
There's a bit
like
of gravy
that.
training going on. I think we could say that, can't we? Which is so easy to do when you're at the course and you're getting caught up in the euphoria. You have to understand that crowds are back. It must have felt like a special moment to see a horse win an international.
It was a really good performance. Don't get me wrong.
What I like about the horse, Keels, is he settles so well, doesn't he? And David Egan. If you look back at the replay, there's a bit on the far side when he's... and I looked closely at Mishriff because I wanted to see how he settled. There were a few others. Love was sweaty. A couple of others weren't settling. What was the pace like? He's got a smile on his face, David Egan, on the far side. It's almost like he knows what's coming. And if you look back at Sandown, and you look back at the King George, so the Eclipse, the King George, and now the International, he gives you everything with that one attacking move, doesn't he? French Derby, Saudi Cup, Shima Classic,
you can't knock him. Proper globetrotter, holds his form. He's a very, very good horse. Wouldn't surprise me if he was to beat any of those 3-year-olds that I mentioned. Yeah. But let's hail him as a great when he does, rather than when he beats substandard opposition, which is, again, brings us into Snowfall.
Well, we'll get there, Keels. Let's bring Pat in first and foremost. So Mishriff, Pat, it was a big prize. He ran to form, a marginal PB. As a mile 2 horse, absolutely fantastic. One of the best in the world, if not the best over a mile 2. We'll get to that maybe a little bit later on. Where does he go next, Pat Cooney?
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? I mean, I do look at him. I agree with Keels a lot. As good as he is, he's won £11 million in prize money, and he can go anywhere in the country and win. So all options are open for him. But I think the fact of the matter is, over 10 furlongs, he wouldn't be favourite to beat Sir Mark's Basilica, particularly if there was given the ground. And over 12 furlongs, he wouldn't be favourite to beat Adea. So he's really, really good, but he's not number 1 ranked in my book. But where will he go? I see John Gosling was interested in going to Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. That would be one that would certainly appeal to me. As going for the Champion Stakes, you'll probably bump into Sir Mark's again. And as I say, I think Sir Mark's will beat him. So I'd go Breeders' Cup with him. That would be my ultimate target this year. I'd love to see him stick around and be in training as a 5-year-old. That would be really good.
Yes, Prince Faisal, his owner, of course, teased that yesterday a little bit, didn't he? And John Gosling will be hoping so as well. Does he go dirt? Does he go turf? That's interesting. Get your comments below. What do you make of Mishriff? Are we having a bit of mischievous Mishriff fun? We have also seen another hot pot this week in Snowfall. Look, the pieces are starting to now really, well together, aren't they, I think? And in all the divisions, especially the mile and a half division. I have to say, and this might be controversial with you, she was a short price. She was expected to win like that as a 2-to-1 on-shot. I was more impressed with her, I think, than I was straight after the race with what Mishriff had done. People will be screaming at the telly going, oh, we're talking about a 128 horse that's won all those great races. Snowfall, I just love the way that she stopped grinding a little bit and she floated. Horses in that Yorkshire Oaks, Kills, even an Ebor wasn't impressive in it. Love wasn't impressive in it last year. It can be a bit of a not graveyard for these fillies.
Well, I think that's right. I think they call York the favourites graveyard. I think this is why you're getting prices about favourites, because people always think one of these is going to get chinned, don't they? Remember, Tagruda got chinned at 5 on in this race.
There you are.
So you're getting 2s on about Snowfield, who probably should have been 4s on, and you were getting 9 to 4 about Mishriff, who should have been evens, right? Because people are actually taking a chance. With some of these are going to get beat. But again, the race was set up for her to win really easily, because we all knew Wonderful Tonight wouldn't handle the ground.
Let's have a word on her, because she was, and we'll go to Pat straight after this as well, leading nicely into the other hot topics. She was a solid 7-8 to 1 chance for the Arc. David Menuisier, extremely sporting, running her, and I don't care what the opposition is, we need to run her to keep her condition on her. But she looked slow, didn't she, on that ground? She couldn't quicken. David has since come out and said she'll redeem herself. She just can't do it. When the heavens open, we'll see her. Are you surprised that she ran?
I was a little bit surprised that she ran, but I was speaking to Maddie Plough earlier on today. She said she spoke to Menuisier, and he said that she's bucking and kicking. We've got to run her to just keep her kicking over.
To keep her in the right place.
And as long as she's sound, there's nothing we can... the great thing about a training like that, it doesn't mind getting beaten. Like, you know what I mean? He hasn't sent her out there to get beat, but I mean, if it happens, it happens. Like, you know, and a lot of people, they just want to protect all them ones and whatever, which is no good.
It was a great move.
No good for racing. It was a good idea. I mean, I made a joke yesterday that he was obviously coming over to the stand side looking for the softest ground, right? And Snowfall followed her. But she was always, to me, she was always going to get beat. It wasn't much of a race. And this is the thing, I see these races as just opportunities for bookmakers to offer rubbish prices, anti-post, and
she was always going to get trimmed.
Shortening Snowfall from 7 to 2 to 5 to 2. I mean, come on, let's face it. If Adayar had run in that race and beaten Albaflora by 4 lengths, he would not have shortened for the Arc.
I wouldn't put your life on it, would you?
No.
Anyone next to an name was
I'm sure he wouldn't, but let's bear in mind, yes, she's done it easily, but there are loads of horses that would. And if you're taking 9 to 4, 5 to 2 about that, you might think, God, but 2 months beforehand, what happens if you get stall 19 in the field of 20 and she's running against 8 other Group 1 winners?
There are.
You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a long way to go yet.
Lots needs to go right in the Arc, not just the actual chassis
to justify
itself.
That sort of price. Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if she, especially given the Arc, if fillies go so well in the Arc, but it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if she tore them apart in the Arc. I mean, she might be that good. We still don't know, though, because she hasn't run against anything.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We're going to get to that next. But Pat, isn't it wonderful for you viewers out there? Listen, let's hope you're enjoying this. We could talk about this like we're at a racecourse bar, or indeed, fly on the wall stuff. This we could go on. Pat Cooney, what price now with Bet365 for the Arc de Triomphe?
Well, I better whisper this. We're actually 9 to 4, so I just think sometimes you just go with your eyes, don't you? I know you can pick holes in the form, but Lad Jacond was beaten 6 3/4 lengths at 150 to 1. So that would say, I don't know about the form. It's just the manner of her win. She could have won that race by 20 lengths yesterday. I think Ryan Moore just shut down on her and just let her coast home. I think it's very telling when Aidan talks about how she's improving, she's getting better and better and better. And she's going to be a 3-year-old filly in the Arc, and that's like finding money in the street, really. They've got such a tremendous record. She's versatile on ground. There's not a French horse in the race. It's not going to be staying at home, the Arc de Triomphe, that's for sure. What else is there? Adair, I'll give you him. Tanawa, okay. And then I'm struggling a bit. Wonderful Tonight's only going to be of interest if it stays soft or heavy in the ground. I just think, as I say, your eyes are the best guide sometimes. I think that's the case with this filly. I mean, as a 2-year-old, I was always against her. And when she won the Musador, I thought, I don't know, I'll wait and see. But she can only just keep winning these Group 1 races and winning them by a mile. So, 9 to 4 for the Arc. Better not to.
All right, any takers out there? That's the question. Again, get your comments in below. Big race preview time then. There's so many of you are waiting for this. And it's 2:05. We're going to go to Sandown first for the Solario Stakes. We've seen some stars over the years in this. Pat Cooney, I was just saying to the producer, Rob Lee, remind me what's won this. You were jumping in. There's some absolute worldies.
Well, yes, just looking at the Roll of Honour. Kingman 2013, Massar 2017, Tudon Hot 2018. So it can be done. It's an interesting race, this one. The odds-on favourite is Reach for the Moon, trained by John Gosden. And this fellow won a maiden at Newbury, and we actually sponsored that day. And I was talking to him and Frankie Dettori after the race. It was only a maiden. The form's worked out okay, though. And he won very, very comfortably. And I said to him, the usual thing, where do you think he'll go next? And he said, I think the Solario Stakes for me. And bear in mind, that was 35 days ago. He was quick to nominate this race for him. Now, I will put the caveat in. He was very, very coltish in the parade ring that day at Newbury. It didn't affect him during the race. I think he was coltish at Royal Ascot as well. So, keep one eye on that. He's obviously got plenty of talent, but a few quirks come with it. But he looks a horse who's got a serious level of form. It's a tricky race. So there's 4 of these in the race that have only had the one run. So you're struggling a bit for collateral form. But Reach for the Moon, I think the connections rate him highly. He's odds on. He's no bargain, but I expect him to win.
It would be nice to see Her Majesty with a classic contender, is what I was trying to say. I was going to say a worldie as well. We don't know if Reach for the Moon. One thing we do know is we're going to see the Chesham form from Ascot well advertised.
Yeah, we know that's form because he was second to Point Lonsdale and only beaten half a length. Winner's gone in at 8 on in the group race since, runs at the correlator on as well. And that form was very good. I mean, okay, he was 2-9 at Newbury, but the runner-up was Harrow, who just bolted up in a York handicap on Thursday with the front 2 going well clear. So you can't argue with the form. Again, we've got, as Pat alluded to, we've got these lightly raced horses, any of whom could show dramatic improvement. And I think the one that I've forgotten the name of it already. It's only one word. Cresta. Cresta. I was well impressed with that at Leicester.
Okay.
Got a big
Cresta at Leicester.
Cresta at Leicester. Got a big bump coming out of the stalls. Sort of seeded first run to the odds-on favourite because literally didn't know what he was doing when first asked, but then really picked up. They pulled miles clear of the rest, and it was a really good run. He's got the group entries that you would expect afterwards. Including Dewhurst. So I think if there's one to serve it up to the Fav, I think that will be the one.
Yeah, I wonder if Great Max might have another stab at this, Fav, It's all a price thing with Reach for the Moon, isn't it? Frankie's gone to Sandown, of course, got the Atlanta Stakes following after this as well. Could have gone to York, got one in the Ebor and the Melrose, very interesting also.
Yeah, Archie Murphy's at Sandown too.
That's interesting. So I think that Reach for the Moon is probably the likely winner, and now the price is telling us that, obviously. But I wonder whether they'd just be a bit more patient with Great Max again. Last time out, I think they blew him a bit too early. And if you go back to the Ascot run with Point Lonsdale and Reach for the Moon, it was a funny pace, and Reach for the Moon was perfectly positioned that day. He was a maiden going, and I thought to myself, is he the one? I'm not really sure. Great Max was ridden a lot further back that day, and he was running on towards the finish. If they're a bit more patient with him, I think he'll have a say. Whether he's good enough to beat him, I don't know. But it'll be Great Max for me as well. All right, so Cresta from Leicester for Keels. Reach for the Moon looks a worldie for Pat, but watch him in the paddock. And I think Max might have a shout. 2:25, another sterling race preview coming for you. It's the Melrose, one of my favourite races. I know you feel that way out there as well, viewers. It is mile 6, is what we call the junior Ebor, really, Keels, isn't it? A seriously good field. A lot of these horses have been winding up, waiting for the distance. You've got to look for who's bred. You've got to look for the connections. It usually produces horses that can go onto the Cup division. Some of them go down under, of course, for big dollars and all that sort of thing. Hopefully that won't be happening. Where does Paul Kealy see the prize going?
Well, I've got 2. First thing I've got to talk about, of course, is the weather. Because the ground's been getting faster all week. I mean, some people have said it was good to firm on day 1, and it's been getting steadily faster. They have got rain forecast in the early hours of the morning. It's going to rain pretty much all day, so it won't be as fast. I don't think it'll be horrific, but
please don't let it be horrific. Come on.
But there's plenty because I don't want it to be horrific, especially early, because one of the ones I like is a horse called Valley Forge of Andrew Baldwin's. I think He's just this slowly progressive horse who, was third to Kamari on his second start, the Queen's Vase winner at Yarmouth. Then got beat by Moshery. He travels really well for a stayer, but then sort of gets a little bit outpaced and then runs on again. He did it again next time out when he won, and he only just justified odds on favouritism, although the front 2 pulled miles clear, and the runner-up has since won by half the track as well. So I think that form is solid. Yeah. But the extra 2 furlongs for last year's winning trainer, who had Coltrane last year, I think Valley Forge has got a big chance. But I am going to back, and I normally oppose some Mark Prescott horses in valuable handicaps because he never wins any. But I think Summer Night is just a really, really progressive stayer who absolutely bolted up. I mean, the only thing that concerns me is actually Sir Mark Prescott could have run him in this race off 80 instead of the 88 he's now got. Like, you know, and
suggesting he's mopping up the races he can.
Yeah, he's been mopping up. Well, you know, I mean, Sir Mark Prescott's MO is winning bad races with good horses, really, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? But he's got this one.
This is a traveller, this chap.
But this one's also a traveller. Yeah. He's also one that finds plenty. And he's done it on all grounds. I mean, he was second at Tashkent on bottomless ground at Haydock.
He looked like he was going to win all over that day.
Won both starts since. So I don't think it actually matters what happens to the ground. And you know, I just think he will run his race. And you know, there will be loads of these lightly race types that won't. Yeah. Like we're all guessing a little bit, you know, but he will definitely run his race.
Yeah. I'm hoping that the ground doesn't go horrible. Do you remember when Coltrane? You remember the Cohen Coltrane? I look back through that replay in your members section, guys. It was a horrible race to watch. And only 2 went clear. Nothing could pick up on the ground. If it goes like that again, it will temper my enthusiasm for Imperial Sun, who is a Gosden horse, who is a Cedar Stars colt out of a Ledger winner. He's been waiting for this. He bolted up on the Tapeta at Wolverhampton last time. The runner-up hasn't done much for the form since, but he was miles superior that day. Rab Havlin, if he gets the first 2 furlongs right, Imperial Sun will light up here. This is one of my stronger plays of the day. If the rain doesn't come, Kills, I might even do a Caribbean Kills and go casino-wise. This is a strong play from me, I can tell you. Pat Cooney, how's the market going to shape up? Dushan at the top, right?
Dushan is the top. It just seems that whenever there's a handicap at York, you have to make it's part of the contract. You have to make the William Haggas horse favourite, and he's got you know, leading chance, as have half a dozen in the race. I was interested in Summer's Night. I appreciate what Keely was saying about he's now 88. I was thinking that why not save him? But I suppose he might have been worried a mark of 80 might not actually get in the race. So he's got a solid chance. I am with you with Imperial Sun. And I think something very telling about it, it's his first run at 1 mile and 6. So you're thinking, oh, well, will he get it? Will he not get it? His half-brother is Harbour Law, who won the St. Ledger over 1 mile 6. So he's going to be better for what he's shown so far because of his breeding. You know, half-brother to a Ledger winner is good currency. My only slight concern, maybe you shouldn't worry about the draw in 1 mile 6 race. He's in stall 1, and he has sort of come out the stalls a little bit sluggishly on occasions. If he does that from stall 1, he's going to be at the back of the field with traffic problems, perhaps. But I like everything about his progressive profile and his breeding. So make that 2 Imperial Suns, please.
Absolutely. Let's hope it will be blazing after the Melrose. 3 o'clock at York, the City of York Stakes. And he was really good comeback at Goodwood in the Lennox, Pat Cooney, from Space Blues. Now, Kills is already putting some worries about the thunderstorms out there. He didn't have his ground at Goodwood. Could it be the case again? Could this one be on the drift?
It depends. Yeah, it depends what the weather actually does, doesn't it? But I still thought he ran a mighty race at Goodwood. He was only beaten, 3/4 of a length by Kinross. He showed he's still got that tremendous acceleration. And I love the fact he's at 7 furlongs, good ground at York. He's been here before and won it. I just think he's the most talented in the race at this set of circumstances. He has won with given the ground, but you just look at his turn of foot and think, yeah, he'd be much better on better ground. To me, he's the best horse in the race. Not by a million miles, though. You've got Primo Baccio in the race. That's more than capable. Form figures don't really do her justice, but Space Blues, I think another thing I think was quite telling. William Buick rode a winner at Newbury on Saturday. He was asked what he was looking forward to at York, and he said the first horse he mentioned was Space Blues. So you're thinking, all the good horses he could have been riding, Space Blues was the one that he was the most looking forward to. So that will do for me. I think the horse, you'd hope it was good ground if you're a backer, but he goes with a slight bit of give in the ground. He'll do for me.
It was a messy finish in the Lennox Stakes, Kills, wasn't it? I've got to be honest, this is headache time for me. I look at this and I'm looking at the weather and I'm thinking, this will be one of those, if I play on the day, it will be in the 10 minutes leading up to the race. Primo Baccio, I think we can really call her your filly. I'm amazed that you're not going for her.
Well, I mean, it's my filly. I mean, she's the filly that I missed when I should have backed her when she bolted up at York.
I was with her that day, just
I wasn't. So I mean, she hasn't actually done me any favours. So, I should have paid more attention to her rump yard alcohol-free in the first.
This would have been one of your naps at Royal Ascot, though, wouldn't it?
Would have been one of the naps at Royal Ascot. Came out because the ground was soft. Look, I mean, even if they get the thick end of 10, 15 mil, I don't think it's going to be bottomless because it's pretty quick. I know the Knavesmire, it's called the Knavesmire for a reason. It can turn, but I think she'd be fine. I think she'd be fine at 7 furlongs on it. That's the point, right? I don't think she minds a bit of cut. I just don't think she stays, and I think we saw that in France last time when she travelled really well. But I mean, she might not have got a run, but she wasn't seeing a race out. at a mile on easy ground. And I think she wants 7 furlongs. I think that's it. She's very fast. But I think Space Blues is a proper, out-and-out specialist, Group 1, 7 furlongs.
7 furlongs round the bend, very hard to beat.
And, he's just really good. I mean, she's going to have to step up in some way, I'd have said, to beat her. To beat him. So I think it is Space Blues' to lose.
Ooh, Space Blues is to lose. I like it because you're on form today. You're a rhyming legend at the moment. Listen, I'm going to stick Primo Baccio on top with a weather watch. I think coming back to York, I was with her that day. If you go back to that Falmouth form, some races just work out so hot, don't they? The Falmouth form is sizzling, can't touch it, it's that hot. And she was unlucky in that, not as unlucky as Lady Bowthorpe perhaps, but she probably should have placed. I think she just about comes out on top for me. I would think the Safe Voyage might bounce back as well. Nothing went right for him in the Lennox. Okay, there you go. City of York Stakes. 3:35. Perhaps one of the biggest handicaps anywhere on the globe at any time of the year. It is the Ebor. So valuable. Pat Cooney. Whether it might be changing when the draw and, of course, the numbers came out of the hat on Thursday. One horse, the one that punters all wanted to be with Anti-Post, still sweating on a run.
Yeah, that's Live Your Dream. But this is a race, I think there's got loads of life in this market. I mean, the anti-post gamble has been Hamish of William Haggis, but he's not run for 428 days. That's going to be some training performance. I just look at the race and think there's going to be wild fluctuations in the market by the time of the off. Principally, and again, I know you shouldn't worry about the draw in a mile 6 race, but you look at all the market leaders. Live Your Dream 16, Hamish 15, Sonny Boy Liston 14, Illarab 20, Tribal Craft 70. They're the top ones in the market at the moment, and they're pretty much drawn out in the car park. Now, I know high draw horses can win this race, but I just can't be that enthused about being on them if I was a backer at Anti-Post. I've actually come down to thinking that Quickthorn, number 20 on the card, drawn 3, might be very much of interest. Now, he's won at Royal Ascot. He's won on soft ground. Hughie Morrison is having a terrific run of winners at the moment. Drawn 3. He's only gone up £6 for the Ascot win. He's unexposed at the trip. But maybe he could be the degree of value. He's got probably more going for him at his current price than the market leaders at the moment. I could see this fluctuating wildly at the top of the market.
Absolutely. Again, Kills all about the weather, really. Live Your Dream. You've already mentioned on the show you think he might be a cup contender later on. So,
well, I mean, they're talking about him improving. He, out of plenty of Godolphin status, he was the one when he ran in that when he ran in that race at Newmarket that he won. He was the only one with the group entries, and he still holds that long distance cup entry. He's rated 101. Thing about a race like the Ebor, because it's so valuable, you have to be rated pretty high to get into it. And what that means is you've got some very, very good horses, but none of them obviously well handicapped on one. Or not many obviously well handicapped on one.
Is it an A-game race
And
then?
he could be one, but when you have a look at it, 6, 7, 8-year-olds win this race more often than not, with 6-year-olds especially. But and so we've got a lot of 4-year-olds up there that are fairly high up in the market. And you think, well, hang on a minute, what about are they going to be tough enough, especially if the ground was to go on the easy side? Live Your Dream. We are talking at the moment like he's in the race, but he's not.
Godolphin have got one more in there. He's going to run Global Storm.
I would have, you would think that. Well, I mean, if I was them, I would take Global Storm out.
But we're not a global operation, are we?
We're not, and Global Storm's got his own chance, a serious chance himself. So you don't know. But what do you do with Live Your Dream? If he doesn't get in by 1 p.m, he's out. And as Pat said, it'd be a great training performance with Hamish, but would it? Would it just be a bit of a shrewd idea? There are two trainers here who haven't run a horse for more than a year. Right? One of them was William Haggis, right, with Hamish, who's 2 from 2 at the tracks, won a Melrose.
Yeah.
And the other one's John Gosden with Humanitarian, right, who won a race at Newbury last year, and the runner-up's now about £12 higher.
And Muntabar, of course, was highly rated when he won it.
Highly rated when he won it, and of course you think, well, this race is worth so much money, and not the 600 grand to the winner it was 2 years ago, but it's still 300 grand to the winner. So much money. Do we just stick him and wait? It might not be a great training performance. These people they've got massive facilities. They won't have a shred of fat on them, will they? You know what I mean?
It's like the old jumps adage, isn't it? You don't worry in certain corners first time out.
Hamish definitely wants it to rain, even though he won a Melrose and good firm. Humanitarian probably doesn't. And there are others in the race as well. And I keep looking at it. Who's the best stayer in Britain at the moment, if you rule out subjectivist? Trushan. Who was second to Trushan last time? Away he goes.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Ismail Mohammed also. Yeah.
Away he goes. Was second to Trushan. Ran a really, really good race. 2 miles soft ground. Third to subjectivist at Maidan. 2 mile good ground. Goes on any ground. Officially £2 well in.
Yeah.
He's in the Melbourne Cup. This is a winner in it race. I think he's, Ismail Mohammed has had a Group 2 winner this week. I think the horse is extremely consistent. And again, because all these horses are reasonably highly rated, you're not, you don't have to be superbly well handicapped to win this race. You just have to be on form. And he runs his race all the time. The other one I like is Miran going up.
He caught my eye. 1 of 2 for Johnny Mercer.
1 of 2 for Johnny Mercer, the bigger price of the pair. But I think, he dropped him down to 1 mile 2 furlong last time. He stayed on strongly. He stayed on strongly behind Quick Thorn on every ground.
Good run at Ascot.
Again, it was a good run at Ascot, yeah. So I think those 2 for me. I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll pick another 2. It's that sort of race. It's genuine 8 to 1 the field.
And let's get this out of the way, Kills. You are constricted in your sizzlers by you can't put 5 up in a race. But Paul Kealy personally, away from Racing Post role, this is something you might.
I scattergun. When it comes to big handicaps, I scattergun horses that will really annoy me if they lose. But they got to the stage, especially when it comes to your older stayers. I mean, there's probably too many in the race for me to do that. You know what I mean? Because everything will have carried my money at one point or other. So I definitely feel If You Dream if he gets in, because I thought he won with a fair bit in hand last time. But I'm a little bit worried about, he's a young, not that experienced horse, and this is a big field, rough race. They're all very, very good, experienced horses.
Yeah. I'm going to throw in Tribal Craft into the mix just because she's a filly I absolutely love. Andrew Balding, of course.
She needs the range, surely.
She does, but she's got the York form, hasn't she? And she obviously she's got that form in the book behind Wonderful tonight. She was just getting going again over a mile 6. She's a strong stayer. She will be running on when everything cries enough. It is a headache race. I said to you earlier in the show you were like the messiah that is Michael Holding. In his piece, he says, I'm not going near the Ebor. It's not my sort of race whatsoever. 1 winner out of 20 horses. No, thank you very much. It's whoever turns up in the A game. Miran would be the other one.
Yeah, they'd be my 2. But I mean, I have been umming and ahhing about this for about 3 hours this morning.
Join the club, my friend.
So it is that difficult.
All right, it's a head scratcher, but what a race it's going to be. 3:35. That's the Ebor preview. Across the Irish Sea go we. What a treat we're serving up here on What a Shout. Let's get Paul Kealy and Pat Cooney's idea of the 6:05 at the Curragh. This is a who's who race, Kills. When you look down the roll of honour, all the good fillies have won it. It's the Debutante Stakes. We had a little look at this morning. The draw's done. Thankfully, 48-hour deck's now in Ireland as well. Who wins?
Well, it's funny, isn't it? You've got a great list of winners, and it's named after a filly that didn't win it. Which is funny. And Alpha Centauri, who was very, very good.
Oh, it's the Alpha Centauri Debutante Stakes.
Alpha Centauri Stakes. And the form horse is obviously Agatha for Joseph O'Brien, but she's on run number 6, having just got off the mark for the first time. She's got the best form by a country mile at the moment, but then we've got these lightly raced, and you look at these, and Jessica Harrington, who won the race with Alpine Star two years ago, she trains Discoveries, who won really nicely last time out, and have a look at her pedigree. Who is she assisted to? Alpha Centauri. Don't know whether that means anything at all, but she's very good with her fillies. Jessica Harrington, she obviously thinks this one's good. It's by Master Craftsman, who sadly we lost earlier on this year.
Really sad,
it was a very decent sire. Very, very good horse as well.
Loved him.
And I think she might be the one to improve past.
Yes, OK. We'll throw Twinkle into the mix as well, Pat Cooney. Of course, promoted in that very controversial Galway Maiden. I backed Twinkle that night when she got beaten by a 7-year-old or whatever it was. And she was still very green. She got the run and race on the inside. She was coming back at the finish. I think there's more to come from her. Tempted by Discoveries as I am, I'll go with the tried and tested Ballydor route of Twinkle to Star. Now, what does Pat Cooney think?
Well, I think it's just an intriguing race. There's only the 8 runners. You can make a plausible case out for pretty much all of them. My eye is drawn to number 5, Measla Mias. Now, my wife's Irish. She assures me that's a Gaelic for with respect. So if you don't want to say Measla Mias, it's with respect. And this girl, she was 3rd on her debut to Discoveries, who reopposes today. But she stepped up on that run to win at Gowran Park last time out from stall 15. And the Irish gurus in the office, I remember them saying, no, you never win from stall 15 at Gowran Park. Well, she did. trained by Johnny Murta, who's in flying form at the moment. I would imagine should be a price because at first glance, a win of a maiden at Gowran Park wouldn't make as impressive reading as a win at the Curragh, for example. But she might be a degree of value for me in an open race.
Talking about a degree of value, if we go to the 640, the Futurity Stakes, we said a who's who roll call of honour for the fillies, absolutely for the colts as well. McSweeney, of course, won it last year. Irish Guineas winner. Point Lonsdale. This just going to be one for the money buyers.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it just looks like a penalty kick, really, doesn't it? I mean, when he did win last time out, Connections were keen to nominate this as his next race. You always start off with an Aidan O'Brien runner in a race like this. They've got a couple of others in the race that just aren't there on the form book. I think you'd have to say, without question, Point Lonsdale is by far the best juvenile we've seen so far this season. That may change. There might be 4 or 5 better than him in the stable by the end of the year. But as of now, it's Point Lonsdale. He's the star 2-year-old, and you'd expect him to be big odds on and win handily, and probably be single figures for the 2,000 guineas immediately afterwards.
It'll be Group 1 stepping up after this. I think Pat's nicely putting that one. Tipping, we're all going to be Point Lonsdale, aren't we? We just expect him to win.
Softly though, isn't it?
Like, okay, would you expect it to go Group 1 next?
Well, yeah, why not? I mean, you've had your 2 runs. You've learnt plenty by winning the Chesham. You then
it's a bit of a gap, I suppose, Gills.
You then step up and you run at 8 on next time and you beat a load of rubbish, and you're running in this race, and on our Racing Post forecast as a maiden who's only run once as second favourite, so we're talking another weak race. Why are they going softly? I am, you know what I mean?
Armory won this, and then he bumped into Quarto, didn't he, in the Group 1 at the Curragh? You'd think he's the Dewhurst horse at the minute, but
he could do. It's only, if this is a Group 1 horse, why haven't you run him in one? Like, you know what I mean? Why hasn't he run in one of the big races at the Curragh?
You'd look a bit of a stayer in the making at the Cheshire.
Could be. It could be. I have my cynical head on 99.9% of the time, don't I? So I look at these things. Point Gillibrand, who is the forecast second favourite on the RP forecast, he's quite interesting because he absolutely should have won his maiden last time because he was just caught in a pocket and just absolutely cantering, and when he got out he didn't quite get there. He could be an interesting one. He's got an awful lot to find, obviously, but I'm not ready to hail Point Lonsdale as a superstar yet.
There you go.
I always need 2 or 3 bits more of confirmation before I concede anyway.
Of course, if Reach the Stars goes and gags up in the Solario, then you know we're probably looking at some hot form, aren't we?
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so Keel's not so sure at the moment about Point Lonsdale, but discoveries will do for him in the Debutante. Right, nap time. Just before we go into this, Michael Holding teased a 2-year-old of us off air for Sir Michael Stoute. He didn't really want to give too much away, but it's a horse. I'd love to tell the viewers what it was. We typed it into Race Post website. We can't find it. So I'm going to have to go back to Mikey and find out what that was.
What it is. But why are you telling everybody? Everybody go, what, I'm going to get a Twitter.
I'll tell you why I'm telling everyone, Keels, because on next week's show, if we get enough likes and subscribes on this week's show, Mikey will be on my WhatsApp and he'll tell us what it is. Stoute, of course, warming up with his
after it's gone from 8 to 1 to even money.
Well, he had a 25 to 1 2-year-old winner. You know, who knows? If you get in early enough, you never know. Maybe Pat Cooney might be being generous. I don't know. And I'll tell you what, with that, let's give Pat the first nap of the weekend.
Yeah, Sandown for me, the 3:15, number 9, Poet of Life, trained by John and Thady Gosden, ridden by Frankie Dettori. So it'd be easy to find at the head of the market, unfortunately, but rightly so. He's had 3 runs, typical John and Thady Gosden, progressive improver. Tellingly, he's off 96 here. But he has got an entry in the Cambridgeshire. You just think, well, why are they entering this in the Cambridgeshire? You've got to be a good 3-year-old to be even considered as a Cambridgeshire. They've won the Cambridgeshire before. I'm not saying he's the Cambridgeshire winner, but I am saying he's good enough to win the 3:15 at Sandown tomorrow off a marker 96. Poet of Life, the name.
Lots of value everywhere. I thought Dancing King had a great chance in the listed race over mile 5 at Chester. However, I'm going to go for another staying race. An Imperial Sun will do for me. So that's a Gosden double. We're expecting myself and Pat Cooney. Just not too much rain, please. 10 to 1 will look massive. Paul Kealy, the treble.
Yeah, an old cliff horse.
Mondabed's running again, is it?
No, Mondabed's not running again. Hey, listen, got my place money out of Mondabed. Thank you very much. Made more money. Lucander won the 4:45 at York, or 4:45 at York last year, and is back within a pound of that mark. And I don't think he ran that badly when the ground got heavy at Goodwood last time. He actually was quite eye-catching at York the time before. And I think he will run a decent race if they get a little bit of rain. He does want. I think he wants a little bit of cut, but not quite what he had behind Migration last time. Migration is in the race, and I think he wants more cut.
He's going to set the market, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to set the market. He's £8 higher. There are horses behind him. Cockalorum is in there as well, and Fishable, horses that ran well in the John Smith's Cup. But I think Lucando is now very well handicapped, and at some point he's going to bounce.
Yeah, I backed him at Goodwood last time behind Migration. He cruised, and didn't quite get through the ground.
Yeah, I didn't quite get through it. Yeah.
Something tells me, Kills, though, we're going to need a parachute off this cliff. There we are. There are your weekend naps. Well, that's sadly all we've got time for here on this week's What a Shout. Myself, Dave Orton, signing off. Paul Kealy, good to have you back. Busy weekend, of course, now, Kills, but you can just chill a little bit more because the week has been brutal for you, man.
It's hard work, these festivals, isn't it? But I mean, we're not going down a pit, are we? Like, you know what I mean? We're sitting in an office watching the telly, like, you know.
Don't tell anyone.
Funny, you know, there are much harder ways to make a living, and you know, mind you, there aren't many easier ways to lose that living, given what I've done on the first couple of days.
You're not going to Sandown?
I am going to Sandown, yeah.
There we go.
Saturday, got to be done.
All right, if you see Kills, give him a nod. Pat Cooney, what does the weekend hold, my man?
Yes, head down working away. And I'm going to have to start looking at these jump horses. The jump season started already. I have to have a refresher course in, what's favourite for these races at the Cheltenham Festival. So it never ends, does it? You're always looking for the next winner.
He whispered 9-4 about Mishriff. He's now screaming that the jumpers are starting. Indeed, there's a whiff of autumn in the air. All right, great stuff. Great to have you watching with us as well. Don't forget, do like and subscribe. Anything on Facebook, get your comments in for the panellists. All your naps and tips, we love to read those as the weekend progresses. What a pleasure it was to have the Whispering Death on as well. Please don't forget this weekend to gamble responsibly. Please do download the free Must Have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store or the Google Play Store itself. Until then, there's loads of it still out there. Enjoy that sport.